Hey, before we get into this episode, just a couple of messages from our sponsor, which is me. If you're a musician, an artist, a dancer, or someone in our gig economy, if you work in marketing, management, an agent, anything else, and you're like what we're talking about here and you'd like to come on and have a chat, please email me at aussielocalandlive@gmail.com and we'll organise to get you on. Secondly, if you're watching this, please subscribe now on the YouTube channel. Subscribe so we can let you know when more episodes come along, and please let your friends know about it. Finally, the last thing, if you do like what's going on and you'd like to really help, please put your camera on that QR code. It will take you to a tip jar on my website. All the money comes 100% to the show, and every bit helps. So anyway, enjoy this episode. If you can, email me, subscribe, or help out with a tip jar situation. Really appreciate it. Have a good day and enjoy the show. All right, I'm very, very pleased today to be joined by a Sunshine Coast legend, but obviously from more places than just the sunny coast, but certainly well known up there. Jay Bishoff, how are you, mate?
I'm well, Nick. It's good to meet you at last.
It is nice. We've sort of met passing a few times, but never had the chance to really have a proper chat, so we get to do it today.
It's remarkable. We performed at the same venue for years and years, but always passing ships,
So much like that, I get so many people say to me, "Oh, do you know this player or that player?" And it's like, well, I know of them, and I see their posters or their ads, but normally I'm loading in or loading out when they're doing the same thing, and we're going to the next gig.
That's the downside of the solo career, isn't it?
It is, mate. It's a one-man machine we have to have just keeping on the move. And mate, I was just looking through your, you've been doing house concerts up the coast as well.
Yeah, well, I was involved. I've been involved running community events and community concerts and open mics and all kinds of stuff. Some, ticketed stuff in earlier years and with some big acts, small acts, the whole thing. But now my firstborn daughter, has sort of taken to event promoting. So she just put on a lovely house concert over the weekend called The Herd, not like the HERD, but The Herd as in those who are heard.
Yes.
And that was a beautiful thing to, and quite humbling that my own daughter featured her dad as one of the acts at her own house concert. So that was kind of a thrill.
It is great. I've been doing some duo work with my eldest son, Harry, too, and it's really cool to be when you get the chance to do it with him, I tell you. So, mate, what's your story? I mean, you've got a bit of an accent there, so you must have wandered to our shore from somewhere else. You want to just give us a bit of a background?
You got a bit of an accent too, we
Have I?
we all got a bit of an accent.
Of course.
I know exactly what you mean. I grew up in California, so
Which part?
I lived in Orange County in the South.
Yep.
And then I lived in Santa Barbara for my real formative later years, university, and
Right.
when you really start realizing what the world's really about, 18 to
Yep.
24 kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when I began performing, that's when I began performing solo gigs in Santa Barbara, California. And in the early days, I was out at one of the old keg parties. Remember the keg parties with the big keg of beer where you just go up with your plastic cup and everything? I don't know if those are happening anymore.
Yeah.
But I took a break at this particular gig, played a set, and I took a break, walked up to stand in line for my beer from the keg, and I heard the craziest accent that I'd ever heard. You have to understand, this was 1991.
I was in Redondo Beach. I was in Redondo Beach at that time.
Wow, we were close even then.
We were. You lived there for 3 years, so yeah.
Incredible! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well,
And this accent, it wasn't an Aussie accent you heard, was it?
Indeed, it was. And as you would know, I'm sure you'll back me up on this. It was quite exotic back then to be Australian in the USA.
It's a novelty, that's for sure. Yeah.
We'd never heard anything like it. And it was this Americans are never good with geography, even at the best of times. But back then, Australia was just this mystical place on the other side of the planet, something almost from fairy tales. And about that time, as you'll remember, Men at Work hit it with that incredible song. And again, we'd never heard anything with this tropical flute and that amazing voice that Colin Hay had.
Yeah.
it transfixed us and set our imaginations running wild. So to suddenly meet real live Australians it was exotic. And then Crocodile Dundee, of course, came out, and that furthered the Australian myth. And so I met these two guys, and they just had so much character and presence and personality. I said, "Where are you staying?" And they said, "Oh, we're staying down at this hotel down by the harbor." I said, "How much you paying?" And they said, "Oh, $150 a night." Back then, that was a lot.
Yeah.
And I said, "Forget that." Got the old serviette, scribbled my number on. I said, "You're staying with me," and they couldn't believe it. So the next day, they moved in with me for 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and we had so many good times. And at the end of it all, they said, "You come over to Australia, and we want to return the favor."
Yeah.
So a year later, saved up all my money, gigged my butt off, flew to Australia, was hitchhiking all over the country, reconnected with those guys, met a girl, and of course, here I am. I've spent half my life here now.
Very cool, mate. Very, very cool. Yeah, no, it was an interesting time. We'd go out to a restaurant, I remember, in LA, and it wasn't uncommon for a waitress to say something like, "Oh, Australia, what language do you speak there?"
Yeah.
Things like this.
Yeah,
It's kind of strange. And they mixed this up with Austria a lot. But
incredible, right? So there's a bit of a difference between Austria and here.
rather, yeah. But mate, we had an interesting time because I did my first album over there in the early '90s, and we actually arrived in LA the week of the Rodney King riots were happening.
Wow.
And it was like, well, welcome to LA. And then we had the Northridge earthquake in '94. We got to ride through that one, which was a big one. But mate, what we're doing musically and the people we met through our music was just sensational. We loved it, and it was just a crazy time. I mean,
It would have been.
yeah, but and we didn't get to travel too much outside of California because we were kind of living hand to mouth with what we were doing with the music. But mate, your hitchhiking, that seems to be a bit of a common theme for you.
Well, yeah, it's a funny thing, sometimes you don't realize that something has sort of become a motif throughout your whole life. It's played a big part in the story of your life. And I actually ran away from home out of Orange County with a friend at age 16. Had some trouble with the law and with the folks at home, and things were getting a bit heavy. So this friend of mine said we should just hitchhike up to San Francisco. I didn't even know what it was, living in the suburbs. And I said, "How do you do that?" He said, "It's real easy. You just go out on the side of the road, you throw your thumb out, and you're away." So he said, "We'll go up to Canada. We'll never come back again." And of course, we did come back, but we had some amazing adventures, and that really opened my world up. It took me out of that suburban existence and that all the confines of the suburban mentality, which is so enclosed and it's so planned and organized and safe. So that sort of opened my mind and my consciousness to so many different realities. And it brought me into contact with a lot of people from that 60s mentality, the 60s and 70s mentality. So here I was in the 80s, a child of the 80s, a kid in the 80s, but suddenly I was accessing direct experience with the consciousness and experience from those 2 previous decades. And it was really empowering, and everything just went a lot wider inside of me. So from that time on, I had realized and experienced the magic of hitchhiking. So when I get to the summers, from university, everyone else would stay home and get high and get drunk and chase the girls in town and whatever, which is great fun, go surfing, go to the beach. But I would head out with my thumb with just very small amount of money in the pocket and just have all these amazing adventures for my summer holidays. And, hitchhike across Canada or across the US and that kind of thing.
So when you made it to Australia and you were hitchhiking here, was it different? Did you find a culturally different experience through that? Or?
Definitely different, because the people and the culture is so different. Even though they're both English-speaking countries, as you've lived over there, it is different. And I found this was an easier country in those days to hitchhike quite a remarkable country to hitchhike in, Australia. Australia has a great history for hitchhikers. And I would even get picked up by young women more often, a lot more often than in the US. There seemed to be more trust and less fear back then than in the US. I don't know how that stands up today because here in Australia, like in most of the world, hitchhiking is kind of just pretty much disappeared. But in those days, try hitchhiking in the northern rivers, and you're liable to get picked up by a beautiful young woman who says, "What are you doing?" "I was just driving around and I saw you on the side of the road." It was a lot of fun, and it was
It's sad that we've lost that innocence, lost that sort of ability to like even I remember seeing a cartoon once of a guy shopping in the grocery store, and he's getting something out of the freezer, and a little kid's there, and he sort of says, having a little chat to the kid, and the mother comes and grabs the kid and takes her away, and he's just having a chat. And we sort of lost that ability in many ways to just, we've lost that trust. And naturally, because, it's a different world, and bad things have happened in our world, so people wisen up. But it is something that I think is sad that we've lost.
I think so. And I think it's important for me to sort of head the other direction, not in a naive, careless way, but I've found that I still have a lot of I have so many wonderful experiences that my optimism remains, and I still like to see the good in people. And
Well, mate, the reason I asked about the hitchhiking was because your documentary, Hitchhiking for Humanity, you want to fill us in on what that's all about?
Well, there's a couple meanings there. Meaning, I'm seeking the humanity, hitchhiking for humanity, but also I think, based on my experience before, I've always been amazed at the kindness of the people and the amazing string of golden hearts. These people who will not only invite you into their car for a conversation and a ride down the road, but often invite you home to meet their family or take you with them to a festival or on a camping trip. Or, I've had the most amazing lifelong friendships and incredible experiences, really beyond belief for me, when you just thought you were going for a ride and you have incredibly transformative, positive experiences. And this happened to me in the 80s when they said hitchhiking was dead, post Charles Manson and all that stuff. And the Doors, Riders on the Storm, there's a killer on the road. If you give this man a ride, sweet family will die. And then, of course, all the movies, The Hitchhiker, and all the press hammering it. But I found in the 80s, it was still quite achievable and it was magical. And then in the 90s, I did it again. And then in the 2000s, I did it again and wrote a book about the experiences. So I published a book about covering my trip from New York to LA and then up to Canada in 2004, post 9/11. Then I took a break for the 2010s, from 2010 to 2020. So this is 16 years since I've done this, and I'm quite a bit older. So I'm not going over there.
What was the book called?
It's called By Grace and Thumb, Hitchhiking America in the Age of Terror, in quotes.
Wow.
But I'll just grab a copy.
Yeah. Jay's just hunting for a copy of his book. Here we go.
Yeah, here's a copy of the book.
Wow.
Yeah, By Grace and Thumb. But and that's basically a nonfiction account of a hitchhiking trip.
Yeah.
Right from coast to coast. So I'm not going over there with anything but humbleness, and just openness to the experience. A lot of the Americans are nervous about me doing this trip in 2025, telling me that they don't even feel safe at this time in such a divided, troubled nation. Yeah. But my feeling is that beneath the media, there's always less actual danger than the fear would indicate.
Sure.
So that's a big part of the reason that I'm going is, once again, I'd like to to make a stand, a humble stand of a hitchhiker on the side of the road.
Yep.
And just with this simple hypothesis that if you go with an open heart, your guitar, a smile, good intentions, I'm not going to be carrying any weapons. People, you got to carry pepper spray. You should carry a gun. You should carry a knife. And I never have before. I've always just gone as myself, put myself at the mercy of life, at the mercy of the road, so to speak. And my experience is, well, look, I'm still here.
So are you filming it as you go? Is that what that's
Yes.
okay? And you're self-filming it?
Yeah. So after the trip in 2004, that led to the book, 5 years later, I got a bit overambitious and thought I'd make a full-length feature film, even though I'd never done anything like that before. So I took a two-man video crew who followed me in a van in 2009. So they followed me right across country on another trip. So that's the reason I'm going now, is to finish that project from 16 years ago that never got finished.
Did that freak anyone out that they were being followed everywhere they went by this van that kept?
Well, I only told the drivers whom I had already established a basic relationship of trust with. You see what I mean? So sometimes I'd look in the rearview mirror and I'd see the crew, but if the driver was a bit sketchy, then I just wouldn't say anything. I'd just sort of smile at the boys, I'd keep going.
Yeah.
But if it was a cool driver, I'd say, by the way, that's my crew just behind us, So it was cool.
Yeah. And do you film the interactions within the car of you chatting and stuff like that?
Well, this is the idea. So the video crew, their job is to capture, me on the side of the road and catching the ride. So the car pulls over. Once I get in the car, it's my job to get the interview. Right. So I need to, just as you and I establish a flow in our communications, I have to do that with the driver to the point that driver's willing for me, to be filmed, willing for me to pull out the camera. And then the next thing, of course, is to try to get some gold rather than a self-conscious, paranoid driver who doesn't want to talk. The Americans are pretty good about that. They like to say their piece. So if you give them an opportunity. So I'm hopeful that it will be like previous decades, but I won't know until I get out there.
Till you do it. So when's that happening?
September 2nd.
September. And mate, you've got a to help pull it together.
A couple weeks away.
Right. You've got a fundraiser happening to a crowdfunding source.
Yeah, I did. There's ginormous costs when you're trying to do something like this. So I put up a GoFundMe just at a community level, and anything is helpful. So people.
I'll put that link on the screen there, mate. So that's still happening now. People can still jump in and help.
They sure can. Yeah, that'll carry on for the rest of this year. So.
Okay, great.
I appreciate that.
That's all right, man. No, that's amazing. And I know, jumping straight into that, I think is important because everything even looking through your Facebook page, a lot of the things you do, you're promoting other artists up there. You're telling what other people are doing as well. And talking to people, just in passing, the respect you have up there for your sense of community, for your sense of being concerned about what's going on with other people, is really highly respected. And I think that showed through COVID, mate, where you took a bit of a leadership position on the Sunny Coast in what was happening and helping other artists with. Yeah, and I didn't follow it closely, but what I saw you saying was a very caring response to people in our industry. And mate, has that always been part of your nature?
Well, that was particularly nice when you mentioned that time. I think that was nice. You and I seemed to find each other during that time as well, because you were also a voice, for truth, to sort of get through all the stuff that was being thrown at us and try to get to a deeper truth. That's where it seemed to me you were coming from. Well, I think that part of that 60s and 70s consciousness stuff that I mentioned encountering through hitchhiking initially, part of that I think has a social responsibility and a responsibility to seek out a deeper truth than is being thrown at us through the mass media channels. And so I was arrested for protesting the first Gulf War, the popular one in 1990.
Okay.
We took over the administration building of the University of California at Santa Barbara.
Cool.
And when I got out of jail from that one, that whole shock and awe war was on, the bombing was on, and I felt at odds with 90% of the American people. And that was about the time I chose to come to Australia.
Mate, were you a Bill Hicks fan back then? The comedian Bill
I'm
Hicks?
always a Bill Hicks fan.
Mate,
Bill
I think
Hicks,
he had the greatest things on that war, the greatest take on that war, and told the greatest truths that I think a lot of Americans had trouble dealing with him about.
they sure did, yeah. Bill Hicks and George Carlin for me all the way,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yeah.
Wow,
So I
you're
guess
you're really in the trenches. Wow.
yeah. Well, then I came to Australia, and then with this community concert event that I started and then ran for about 13 years at Phrygian Originals.
Yeah.
And I don't think you played there, did you, Nick?
No, I didn't. I didn't because I always lived in Brisbane and I was always traveling up the sunny coast doing a lot of work up there. But it was a legendary event you put on, mate. Everyone knew about it, and it was really well respected.
It was a great thing for the community, but that also brought forward the political stuff because they tried to shut us down, the
Right.
amalgamated council. And we did a people's public protest, not once, but twice. And we overcame the amalgamated council twice. They tried to shut us down, and twice the people won. So then there was that. And then I don't go out looking for battles. It's just that, when they come at you and they're trying to shut down what you're doing at a community level, or just trying to feed your family in the case of COVID, then I'm happy to make a stand. You have to draw a line at some point.
Exactly. And that was the thing for me. I tried not to dwell too much or get too much down the road in talking about the medical issues and everything else because I'm not expert in that area. But to me, it was more a matter of trying to look out for each other within our gig economy, in our industry, because it really highlighted that we didn't have a voice. We don't have a political voice. We don't, as an entity, we don't really, it's not unionized. It's not anything that brings us together. And it was an easy sector for government to use to build fear, by shutting down the venues and all these things they brought in. They used our sector to do that. And I know firsthand they were proud. Some of the politicians were proud of the way they used that to influence what they get through what they wanted to do. But it was almost a time where making a noise within our little echo chamber in social media and things like that, it also gave other people the chance to realise that they could speak to you. They had someone they could talk to as they were panicking or they were losing work or marriages were falling apart and things like that. When you make a noise, it kind of often creates a pathway for other people who maybe haven't got the confidence to make the noise themselves or feel intimidated. But when you do make a noise, they don't feel alone.
That's right, because you've had the courage to stick your neck out, and then you're representing what so many other people are experiencing at home in isolation. And as long as we're isolated, then they've got us. But the minute people start coming together, well, then we can become a voice again. And I think you did a great job of that. Like you say, you focused, and it's great to have a focus.
Yeah,
you see what I mean? The broad spectrum thing, it's fine, but if you stuck to the music industry, and I think that's incredibly important, particularly now.
Yeah,
that there's a lot we can talk about with music because there's big changes happening there.
Mate, what are your thoughts there? I mean, people often they'll see someone who's doing a soloist or a small local gig musician. They generally don't realise the story behind that person, how they've built a career out of what they do. That there's years going into it, and they've got a lot of experience getting to doing that work. What are the things you think we need to be talking about as an industry these days? I mean, there's a string of them, but what do you prioritise in that conversation?
Well, I think for me, what I'm missing most is the art. And I think that art and commerce are not great friends. True art and commerce are not great friends. But because it's become all industry, that I don't see a lot of art happening around me anymore. I see a lot of just urgent self-promotion or urgent managerial promotion. But running these little open mic events and community events on the local level, because I've been doing this now for about, let's see, at least 25 years. And, going back to the early 2000s, you would get these amazing songwriters who would pass through. So if you had an open mic, not every act would be totally compelling and amazing, but you'd always have one or two real songwriters, troubadours, that would,
Yep.
so-and-so's here from England, or so-and-so's up from Melbourne, or so-and-so's up from the Northern Rivers, or
Yep.
down from Darwin. And suddenly you'd have this voice of the troubadour, telling stories of a faraway land with the wisdom of the traveler who sees different cultures, or observations about life, insights as to the deeper realms of the human spirit. And you would, or sheer comedy, but you would finish that experience. You'd leave those nights enriched by the power of song. And what I've seen, I don't know about you, but in the last couple of decades, I've seen, a really disturbing decimation of the art of song, because it's all become about the little clever machines that go bing, in the words of Monty Python, the machine that goes bing. It's become, and the machine aspect of music that was formerly totally human is now, it's just the ratio of machine to human being in a lot of the music that I hear is really disturbing to me. And initially I was so open to all the different kinds of music. And now I've actually pulled back a little bit from the overuse of, sequenced music and electronic music, because it really is getting to the point where, where's the song?
Mhm.
Where's the real poetry? Where's the song craft? I saw a talk with Sting the other day, and he was talking about the disappearance. You might have seen this little clip where he talks about the disappearance of the bridge. He
Yep.
said, the bridge is gone now.
Yep.
The bridge in the song is such an important aspect, not for every song, but it was such a departure from the verse and the chorus to take you on another journey lyrically, to give you another perspective before bringing you back home. And just, it seems that the former complexity and depth in the art of songwriting has been reduced to this commercial imperative. How do we get to the chorus quickly, and how do we
Yep.
make an anthemic song that'll make us millions of dollars?
Yeah,
I
or
don't
using
know.
the same 3 or 4 chords in the verse and chorus and just not moving it anywhere. You see so much of that in so many of the songs. But in saying that, and I agree with you that that's very much what's happened. But my hope is that there's also some great songs being written these days too.
There
One of the
certainly are.
big challenges is that, when I was growing up, you would hear, a certain number of songs on the radio. You'd see them on the TV shows. You'd see them. They were, you got to know those songs over a 6-month period or whatever. Now there's something like 10,000 songs a day being released on Spotify and other
Yeah.
platforms, and you just get overwhelmed by the amount of those songs. And within that, people would say to me, "Oh, back in the '80s, there were such good songs." Well, there were, but there were also a lot of crap songs back then too. It's just the good ones survive. And I think today we've got the same thing where, looking back 20 years, there will be songs that will survive from this time. But that just amount of stuff coming out, because it's being generated so simply. But also my hope is that as the cycle goes around, there's a whole generation now, I think, ready to rediscover the, that that depth of songwriting, rediscover. And you see it a bit in, I think, the take-up of the country music a bit lately too, some of that storytelling re-emerging, and the new generation has sort of missed that storytelling. And I'm hoping something new will evolve out of that. So totally agree with what you're saying, but I also hope that we're going to go through a cycle where it moves to the next positive thing,
Well, I agree with you, and in the subculture level, when you get beneath that sort of mass consumption world, when you get beneath it, and that's part of this hitchhiking across the USA, is I know that I'll find these little pockets, these little subcultures,
Yep.
and there's really exciting things happening in those scenes. I went to the Billy Strings concert in Brisbane just recently, and here's a guy, who's absolute top of the world in this traditional American art of bluegrass.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he's taken it out sideways into like a psychedelic, the bluegrass psych
Okay.
sort of thing. By doing that, he's sort of adopted all the Deadheads, all the Grateful Dead fans,
Yeah, right.
and it's a beautiful scene. And this is incredible musicianship and great songwriting that's part of a tradition, and the young people are digging it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just one example. So I agree with you. There's all kinds of good music still happening. But it is interesting running these open mics because you rarely get blown away by a songwriter these days.
Yeah,
You get
you'd have an interesting perspective running those nights for sure. You'd be seeing it at the real grassroots level and seeing that change. I guess the other thing too that I'm worried about is for so many decades we've been able to make a living out of playing music, and I think it's getting harder and harder for people coming through to actually live on making their living by just playing music. And I think we have to.
Look what happened to the bands. Look what happened to the bands.
Yep. It's just we have to look at new models, and people are listening to more music than ever before. It's not like music is dying, but the way of making your living out of it, I think, is becoming harder. When we lost the ability to sell CDs back in the early 2000s, that took away.
That's right. That's right.
The change, pokies coming into the clubs here in when they came in Queensland, really changed the focus of so many venues who would work with artists to draw people in. It was like about promoting the acts to get people in, but a lot of the hotels shifted to the pokies and restaurant sort of scenario, and sort of entertainment became a secondary function. And then, of course, with what happened with COVID and, so many small businesses being squeezed out of the game, small venues being squeezed out. And some of the ones I know, they were able to trade on, but they had to take on so much debt during that time that they couldn't trade out the debt. So there's just been these pile of things that have sort of squashed the money-making ability for artists. And I think, exploring things like
then the whole licensing, thing, and
Yep.
these suddenly live music being equated with noise. That was with noise pollution. This is sort of like a jackhammer is noise pollution. A bus going by, I understand, is noise pollution, but now live music was suddenly equated with noise pollution. So it's become so desperate, and the scene has been so decimated that it's now the rise of these house concerts and these private events and people having festival initiatives. But of course, these have all their challenges. It's really hard to build culture from scratch, like my daughter trying to run this house concert, tremendous effort and a beautiful experience. But, at the end of the whole experience, she made $138 for putting on this event. And it's great that she got over the line, but my God, we all put in so much work to make that happen, because you're having to build culture from the ground, because the whole music culture has been devastated. And this is not even to mention ChatGPT 5 just came out a few days ago, I'm pretty sure. And the problem I see now, one of many problems, I don't know about you, is how do you know anymore if people even wrote the song? How do you even know if anyone wrote the lyric? How can we prove it?
Well, I think while those things are definitely a challenge there, it's going to put more of an emphasis on making sure we're using our humanity within our music. We're actually putting more emphasis on, I'm hoping the more isolated people get through technology, I'm hoping it will open up an opportunity for them to be hungry to experience that human interaction. And I think from a solo or small artist perspective, that's something that we can actually offer people, is that intimate experience with music, and do it up close and personal. And
just communities, hey?
Yep. And then also one of the advantages we do have these days is the fact that a lot of local artists do have good social media networks and everything, and it's often hard to do anything with it by yourself. But one of the things I'm trying to do just through this little exercise here I'm doing with the podcast is try and talk to artists like yourself who are very heavily involved in the community, see if we can have conversations together where we start looking at how we cross-promote, how we actually share ideas, how we come up with things that we work as a group together to take control of our industry. because it's up to, no one's going to do it for us. It's up to us to make our industry work.
That's right. Yeah, and I think getting the grassroots community culture is the only way. We've got to go. We have to invest in what it is to be a human being and to
Yep.
sing and play music together again, and to have gatherings, um, or like this beautiful house concert where, like I said, it wasn't a financial win for anyone, and yet it was a win for humanity. That's what I mean by humanity. When people
Yep.
they get together. We got together around the fire. We got together around the stage, around the live music, around the food. It was on a beautiful property in nature, an incredible property with a farmer and his wife and their permaculture property. So you've got this experience of the land, the live music, the moon, a little bit of rain,
Yeah.
the moon and the stars, and a little bit of rain, not much, and the fireplace and good people together. And this is where the live music can thrive if it comes out of that. And then if we have these events where we're coming up with a community fire and community inspiration, I think this is the way forward. Um, it has to be, because otherwise things are going to be so mechanistic and so automized and so AI
Yeah.
controlled, and we don't want that. We actually don't want it.
No, that's a way for a boring life, Once everything sort of becomes homogenized like that, and you lose that control, it's where humanity is where we will find uh, our true energy, and I think that's where we'll push on with our industry, and that's why. But hitchhiking for humanity, I just think what you're doing there is like leading the way in that thought process, mate. And I'm really excited to see how that all turns out, and the
Well,
inspiration you give by doing those type of things, mate. It's that's important in our
I
industry.
hope it's inspiring, and I believe it will be. It always has been for me, and I look forward to tapping into discovering some new subcultures for
Yeah,
all the themes we're talking about. Some people who are doing exciting things together. I'd love to see the infrastructure uh, express that. There are venues in Australia. There's just a few, but I'm playing it with the singer-songwriter Jack Raymond as a duo at Udi's. Udi's up at Bundaberg, and this is a remarkable venue and a remarkable experience for live musicians, and a true community heart venue that is one of the best places to play on the East Coast. And we went up there last time, and they treat you so well, and there's such a magic feeling. The sound guy's great. The sound's beautiful. The crowd's beautiful. You get paid well. You get fed. It's a joyous celebration of live music and community. It's a 10 out of 10. And the
hmm
next morning, we came downstairs from this beautiful accommodation, this loving, carefully prepared accommodation that they provide for you. We came down the next morning for breakfast, and I looked at it and I went, "It's a cafe, Nick. It's just a cafe." But when you arrive at night, and you
yeah,
feel like you've arrived at Wembley, this
yeah, yeah.
wonderful experience. The next morning, I thought, it's just a cafe. So I told the audience, I said to them, "Do you know what you've created here? Do you know what you have? Because we got I don't know how many cafes here on the Sunshine Coast, but there's got to be
hmm
a couple hundred or something.
Easy,
We
yeah.
don't have anything like that. So what's the
Mm.
difference?" I said, "Jack, what's the difference between this cafe and all the other cafes?" And he looked at me, he said, "Love."
hmm
It's just love. So that's the ingredient that needs to be there, and we have that within us as individuals. And you have it in your heart, and I have it in my heart, and here we are talking about it. And there's others who have it too. So I
Absolutely.
celebrate the fact that you're coming out with this.
Cheers, mate. So, where's the best place for people to hear your music?
Well, because I've spent the last 20 years sort of focused on my daughters, raising these two beautiful daughters. So I'm just now coming back to recording, and that's why I'm heading
hmm
out to the U.S. again on this trip. I've got 3 songs I'm about ready to release. But if you go on Spotify, you won't find me much there. But if you meet my daughters, hopefully you'll think that they're worthy individuals and that they're lovely. but um, but I'm sort of coming back to it. So I would say the best way might be, if people are interested, to they could connect with me on the social media just under my name, and in the next couple weeks, I'll be putting out all the social media connections for the hitchhiking trip. So if anybody's intrigued by this adventure, they could follow me there, and then that's going to lead to the music and the book and anything else anyone's interested in.
I'll put the link for your Facebook page there, and I guess if
Simple.
people can jump on and follow Jay, what he's doing. And
I'm excited about your program. Am I part of the first one, or?
Oh, mate, we've done about we're getting close to a dozen episodes. I've only got a couple
I didn't know if it was a brand new endeavor. So you've already
it is. I'm trying to put 2 out a week. I'm trying to release 2 of them a week.
Wonderful.
I've recorded, say, about a dozen, but I've only got 2 of them up live. So a couple more going up this week. This one will go out about in a week's time, and it's going to be a slow burn. It'll take time to get the word around. But I'm just hoping that, talking to people, they'll share it with their friends, who'll hopefully share it with their friends. And mate, I'd love to get you back quite regularly to talk about what's going on up the sunny coast, what you're doing, where you're heading to.
You can call me in the US. Give me a buzz when I'm in the US.
That would be great. Let's do one from there. And mate, if you've got any friends up on the sunny coast there that you think would like to have a chat, for people who are outside of our local area here, the Sunshine Coast is probably one of the most beautiful parts of Australia, and it's kind of got a more casual feel than the Gold Coast, and I found a bit more organic in a lot of the things that happen up there, and it's always one of my favourite places to go to and play. And everywhere you go, everyone knows Jay up there. And
that's humbling, but I guess it's also I've been here for a big part of my life now. Sometimes when you stick around in a place, well, people sort of get to know you.
Stick around, but also play an active role in community. That's the big thing, mate. You've done through your music is.
And I appreciate that, mate.
Like with the Bridgian Originals, or through to, as I say, on your Facebook, you're just encouraging other artists and promoting their gigs and stuff like that, mate. And that's what we need to be doing together, mate. Thank you very much for the chat today. It's been really good to get to know you. All the best with the trip and the documentary. I'll be following that, and as I said, if we can get a chance to chat quite regularly, I would really like to get that opportunity.
Let's do it, Nick, and I really appreciate what you're doing. And it's I got to listen to your music for years and years. I'd come in at the end of your set, before I'd set up, kind of thing, and catch 20 or 30 minutes. So it's really great to meet you and get to stretch out in conversation a little bit. And it's interesting, the common resonances through the years. With your perspective and response to the COVID situation, and musically, it makes sense because there was a musical resonance, and I recognized you, as a real strong songwriter. So it makes sense that it's easy for us to get along.
Yes, mate. Exactly. Well, mate, we'll wrap it up there, and I'll be chatting to you again soon. Cheers, buddy.
Awesome, Nick.